Hey, all gearheads, welcome back to another automotive industry episode. Today, we're going to talk about how Ford and GM are possibly playing with the idea of opening their factories back up to ramp up production. Some dealerships are allegedly not taking back customers' leases.
Also, we're going to be covering how Nissan has applied for a new trademark on some logos out there, even the Z logo, and even supposedly a new Lotus vehicle coming to you soon.
So stick with us to find out. All right, guys, so we already kind of gave you a lowdown of what we're going to discuss today. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Ford and GM playing with the idea of opening back their factories, hopefully trying to return to some form of normalcy.
Right. And this doesn't include Chrysler. So FCA has not come out and done the same thing, but I think it's safe to assume that they're going to follow suit. This is just standard.
I think they're kind of waiting. Ford and GM are the first two to come out and say it. The automotive unions have already kind of given pushback on it because FCA and GM, maybe Ford as well, but a lot of these factories had one or a couple employees pass away from COVID-19. So the unions are kind of saying, hey, I don't think it's safe to open back up yet. So maybe that's why FCA hasn't said anything about it yet. But that's the pushback that Ford and GM has been getting, talking about opening up. They said in May. That could be as early as May 1st or as late as May 31st, so just at some point in May, but the situation could change at any point.
Right. And then this is good. I mean, they've also talked about the safety measures they've taken with the current staff and the hours they're giving to their employees, and showing how much the efforts that they're taking to make sure that things are as safe as possible and work acceptable, because they do understand they have to have one side correct, as well as making sure that they can get their businesses back up and running. But all in all, I mean, in my opinion, this is a good step. I mean, for us car junkies, us gearheads out there, this is a good sign. We're going to start seeing vehicles go back to the dealerships. Some statistics have come back already from consumers showing that the estimated rate that people were going to be buying at during this period has actually been higher than expected. So that's also a good sign. So all in all, good move.
If you've tried to go buy a new vehicle recently and they didn't have the one you wanted, well, it's because they're not making very many vehicles right now. So hopefully, like we said, we do see a trend going back to some normalcy, but we will see what happens.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, going into similar news, when you're talking about dealerships, we're actually talking about this alleged situation where there are some dealerships out there that are not letting their customers who had been leasing a vehicle, a brand new vehicle, not being able to let them return it. So now, if you guys are familiar with the lease, for example, if somebody was to lease a car for 3 years, 36,000 miles, at the end of that 3 years or during that time period, they come back with the vehicle. It's always a close-ended lease, so this allows them to drop the keys off and leave. But during this situation, dealers are giving them a lot of pushback. Now, we're not saying that every dealership is doing this, but this is something that's happening right now in our market. And in my opinion, Jacob, this may be a situation where these dealerships just feel like they're not moving enough vehicles off the lot. So they're not readily accepting more vehicles onto their lot just to not sell them. They're afraid of the situation. Yeah. But what do you think?
I mean, yeah, the two ways to look at it is, according to this Car and Driver article we read, USA Today found that there was 10 people who were included in this. It could be more. It could be that's it. So it's like Josh said, not a lot of dealerships are probably doing this. Hopefully not. But I understand why the dealerships aren't wanting to take the vehicle back because, like you said, they're not selling as many vehicles right now. Some people just don't have the room for it. So it really depends how many people are trying to return leases. If it's like one customer, I'm sure they can find room on a lot somewhere. But if it's a bunch of people, if you're in a lease-heavy market, then that's really different. At the same time, though, the dealership and the customer engaged in a contractual agreement that after 24 months, 36 months, they're going to return this vehicle to you.
Yeah.
You kind of have to take the vehicle if they don't want to take the optional extra month or two, because I know a lot of OEMs are offering, hey, if you have a lease, and I think BMW is doing it, and some of the people, if your lease is due now, you can hold on to it for another month or two or however long they're doing it. But if the customer doesn't want to do that, then I don't see why they should be forced to hold on to the vehicle when the contract is ended at that point. So
I don't think they have the legal ability to make them hold on to it. It's just a really funky situation where these salespeople, I don't know what they're doing. There's some dealerships out there. I mean, like you were just talking about in lease heavy markets, I mean, there is a wave, like a trend. So like every few years, you're going to have these lease customers come back to the dealership. So this is just a natural trend, but we've never, between me and Jacob, I don't think I've ever heard of a situation where dealerships are just not readily accepting the leases that they gave out. Like that's a very weird and awkward situation for a customer. But outside of that, I don't think it'll end up being too much of an issue now that it's become somewhat of headline news. These dealerships are going to straighten up. And I know that even some of the dealerships we work with, our dealerships are probably better than that. They're going to be like, yeah, just let me help you out. Because they know in the long run, earning that customer's trust and their business by working with them, no matter what's going on, that's what matters at the end of the day, not necessarily always the bottom line.
Yeah, when you have all these automotive news outlets or even like USA Today who originally reported this, you can't really get away with doing that and people not finding out, you know.
Hey, we're all watching now. You don't do that. You know,
pretty much. Google reviews can be your best or worst friend as any business, really, but especially car dealerships. But speaking of news with automotive, the Nissan has apparently, reading into this, filed for 2 different trademark logos in foreign markets. They haven't filed for them in the US yet, but they are looking at changing up the Nissan logo itself in Great Britain, Peru, Uruguay, Chile, and Argentina. So the UK and some pretty big markets in South America. And then at the beginning, we mentioned they're also filing for a new Z logo, which that has just been filed in Canada and New Zealand. For those of you who don't know what the Z logo is, that's like the 350Z, 370Z, the older 240, 280.
Fun ones.
Yeah, they're fun. Usually they're 2-door coupes. People who love Japanese imported vehicles, this is like the epitome of Japanese engineering right here for automobiles. And so seeing a new logo come out with this shows some good signs for us that we might get a new Z.
Yeah, there's some people out there that believe that Nissan could be revived based on the fact of just getting more Z cars into the lineup. You look at every brand out there, and there's only a couple that I can think of off the top of my head that don't have a fun car in their lineup. I mean, look at Dodge. They've really, really owned it when they've upgraded the Challenger, the Charger, even the SRT Durango, even the Trackhawk of the Grand Cherokee. You look at other brands, Ford and their Mustang, even got the Ford GT. I mean, you can go on and on with the other brands. And Nissan, even though like they have the GTR, in my opinion, it's priced way too high, and they haven't updated it enough.
No.
Like it is
the same for the last 10
very
years. So.
Yeah. It's a pink slip eater. It is. It's a beast out on the track. But at the end of the day, they don't have a vehicle, since they did discontinue the 370Z, that can fit in that niche market of having like a coupe or a convertible outside of the Murano convertible. And
you don't love that car?
I just don't think about when I'm waking up in the morning going, can they make a convertible SUV? Now, I'm not picking on Range Rover. That was Range Rover's idea with the Evoque. Well, that's a much better looking one. Here we can compare them. But going back to what we're talking about with the Z, this is a big deal. I mean, there's a lot of people that truly believe that if they have some type of an excitement, so you talk about those halo cars, the ones that really bring the interest back to the brand, I think that is huge. I mean, you talk about, like you said, in the 90s, That's when Nissan was owning it in America. And since then, it has just gone downhill when it comes to just excitement and good, solid vehicles.
Yeah, well, when your only coupe, like you said, or not the only one, but your main one, the GTRs, can be well over $100,000. That's not in everybody's price point.
No.
You have a Z car that's like 30s or like the 370s and the 40s with some of them. That's more affordable. I've even seen some articles where they talk about a potential 400ZX is what they're naming it, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
People are speculating, of course, like 400 horsepower, but we'll see. If you had a 400 horsepower coupe come from Nissan, that would be worth the 40 grand that they're charging for 370s brand new, in my opinion.
And in that market, you're talking about more of a domestic. It's still an import, but it's a domestic priced brand. You can't go from having your nicest sedan being the Maxima and being priced around 40 grand to then saying, oh, well, the next one up, if you're wanting something a little faster, it's $180,000 for a GTR. Yeah. So to your point, if they can provide an outlet for those people that are in the market to buy like a Kia Stinger, that are in the market to buy a Toyota Supra, or even any of those of the above, of the still same brands like Toyota and Nissan and all those brands like that, you need to provide something that they can gravitate towards. So something maybe hopefully in the future we see something that does compete with the Supra, because that would be really cool. Because
that's what we need right now.
Yeah, Supra versus GTR. But man, Nissan just said, yeah, we're going to build a beast of a car, and it's going to be a beast of your wallet. So
yeah, Toyota's like, we'll make a cool car, but half the price is that. You know, it's not as fast, but
yeah,
it makes your wallet not cry as much.
And they could get carried away, or they could get away with taking away some of the interior quality. Like you see Toyota with their new TRD Camry, they have cloth seats in some of them. Like they're not as worried about interior design as much and having all the whistles and bells as much as they are saying, here's a 300 horsepower V6 and awesome quad tip dual exhaust in the rear of the car. It's a cool looking car. It's got a little bit of a spoiler. Personally, I'm not huge on a Camry having a spoiler. Some people are, but it does present some excitement, and it also shows how they're able to, even in that brand, put that Camry TRD in the $30,000 range. And you're not asking for all of their money. It's like, yeah, this is somebody that wants a Camry. Maybe they want a little faster, and they don't have to spend 40 to 50 grand.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully it's a little bit more affordable than some of their other models that they have, their other coupes. But speaking of new coupes, what do you have for us on this new Lotus you mentioned at the beginning?
Whew. Well, personally, I come from Lotus being a British brand. I'm not British. That's not where I was going with this. But my dad has always had a love for British sports cars. Like we've talked about in other videos, my dad right now owns a 59 MGA. So awesome, smaller British sports car. I mean, it's nothing insane. I think he's always told me it's got about 75 to 80 horsepower. So I got four speed on the floor. But moving from that, Lotus is another British long-time automaker. And you're talking about smaller coupes, sports cars, and Lotus being heavily into the racing world. This is dating back to the times of Carroll Shelby during his racing days and Lotus being around. And then Lotus really taking off in the 70s when it comes to just racing on the Le Mans and just worldwide. And being in the market, in the American market, just for relevancy right now, what we've had in the past, in the 2000s and even the 2010s, is we had the Lease, we had the Exige, and we had the Evora. To everyone, like the Lease was your lower end with the 4-cylinder. All these cars, very small, smaller than a Miata potentially.
Go cars.
Also, mid-engine, still pretty cool. And then you have the Exige having turbo on the 6-cylinder. I think is either turbo 4 or 6, and then your big honcho, the Evora and the Evora GT having your supercharged V6. So your beastly car. But supposedly right now, because after a while they got rid of the Exige and now they only sell the Evora in America, they're talking about, similar to this Nissan, what we're hoping for the Z, creating a coupe that costs around the $50,000 to $60,000 mark. Now, in comparison to Nissan, this makes sense to cost $50,000 to $60,000 because we're talking about a car that's potentially going to be competing with the Porsche Cayman. So something that has high 300 to low 400 horsepower and is also user friendly, because in the past, Lotus has never been known to have the whistles and bells inside the car. It's just been straight up, here's your gauges, here's how fast you're going, here's your RPMs, and then here's your shift lever, there's your clutch, let's get going. Like, let's do this. But definitely moving up in this world. I'm excited. Doesn't mean that this car is going to blow anybody's doors off, but just coming back to the roots and trying to create a car that is driver-centered, makes sense for everyday driving, and doesn't just get like 12 miles per gallon like a Dodge Viper. But
yeah, hopefully a little bit better.
Yeah.
I even saw in this article that this might be, they've hinted it might be the last model that uses a gasoline engine.
Yeah. And that is definitely something we're seeing with a lot of these brands. I'm kind of worried, but like, there was also leaked recently, this isn't in our agenda, but Ford released out a new Cobra Jet, all electric race car for the drag strip.
1,400 horsepower. It sounds like a rocket ship doing.
But it's all electric. And that's where we're going, is everything's going electric. It's like instant torque, instant power. But between me and Jacob, the gearheads we love the smell of gasoline and
the sound of it burning.
Whew.
the noise that these cars make.
Yeah.
Simple.
Exciting stuff. But yeah, I think that's coming out here in the next couple of years is the hope. But it is sad to hear some stuff like that, like an old British automaker like that's known to make just fun cars is going away from the gas world. But it's the time we live in now. So
we'll see what happens. We'll keep our expectations open for it.
Right.
So speaking of non-gas saving, non-gas guzzling vehicles, something that we saw that was a little funny to post on here for those of you Tiger King fans out there. Apparently some garage in Virginia Beach bought and is trying to sell the Joe Exotic Tiger King van. And it comes like this little trailer to tow around your Tiger. I guess it looks like it has a fake tiger in the picture here. Yeah, it's pretty funny. We'll pull it up for you guys to see it. But the crazy thing about it, I guess with the notoriety that the TV show has gotten, they're selling it for $295,000.
They need to they should have had that to be able to help pay for the zoo. Get them out from under.
Well, apparently they're trying to whatever money they get from it, whatever they sell it for, they're going to donate it to charity.
Okay.
I don't think it's
for profit. Yeah.
No, that's what it's saying in the article. At the end of it, they're making the joke that I doubt that they're going to donate to a big cat rescue charity. They just pull up to the zoos in Oklahoma and just take all these cats. But
they probably said we're going to have to pause on all questions of that nature.
Oh, no. Well, we will.
But outside of that, guys, if you guys have any other auto news that you guys found really interesting or something that is way out there, go ahead and let us know in the comment section. Let us know. We love hearing about news stories that are happening in the auto industry. And also make sure if you like our content, be alerted on what's happening right now. Just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It'll let you guys know whenever we're posting. We're trying to get you guys at least 2 to 3 videos a week to try and get you guys up to pace on what we're doing.
Yeah, so if there's something we're not talking about that you want to hear more of or you want to learn more about, just let us know.
But other than that, go ahead and this is Gulf Coast Gearheads signing off.